Hi guys, so I hope the angle's okay. I hope it's not really ridiculous. I'm sorry for the angle, the stuff around me and everything, but yeah. Anyway, after I did my video yesterday about kind of needing and wanting ideas and wanted to know what kind of people and viewers wanted to see, I had a lovely message from a girl, and I don't know what her name is, and I can't remember, like, I don't know if she specified whether or not she wanted me to say her username or not, so I'm not going to say anything. I'll see whether she wants me to say. I just won't say. But anyway, she said that she had her driving test coming up soon and that she wanted some advice on kind of her driving test. So the first thing I'm going to put out there with driving test advice is that I didn't pass first time. It took me two attempts. First time I got a serious, and if I hadn't done the serious I would have got something like 10 minors. Second time I passed with 3 or 4 minors. I can't remember which one. I think it was 3. I don't know if it's slightly different in other countries, but in the UK that's kind of how it works, especially where I live. I think you can get something like 12, 14 minors, and then you fail if you get like 14 or something. I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't pass first time, and like there wasn't like pressure on me, but there was kind of like an expectation of me just to pass first time. I broke the family spell. Everyone in my family, like my mum, my dad and my brother, all passed their driving test first time. I didn't. But in a way I'm kind of really glad that I didn't pass first time, because when I was actually doing my first driving test I was like, this is really scary. If I pass, this means that I've got to go out, I'm going to have to go out on the road on my own, and I really didn't feel ready and confident enough. I didn't feel like, well, the realisation hit when I was doing my driving test that I don't feel confident like enough to get out in my own car. Second time around was a completely different story. I felt ready. It was kind of like driving lessons were getting boring because I was fine at everything. I was enjoying driving. Driving was starting to become fun. The manoeuvres were like fine. I could do them all. It was just waiting for like the test centre I had my test at is actually quite a busy test centre, so I had to wait quite a long time for my second test. But I'm glad that I spent that longer period of time. It really built my confidence up, and I went into my second test feeling so much more confident. The thing is, when you have your first test, is that you don't really know what to expect. It's a completely foreign thing, and it's like any kind of test or exam. You're going to be nervous, and sometimes it can be quite a foreign thing to do. Like, it's something that you've never done before, and it can be quite daunting, and I think is probably what let me down the first time round, was just that I was quite, oh sorry, I just knocked the tripod, I was quite I don't know, it just felt like I didn't cope well under the pressure, and I kind of let my nerves kind of get to me and stuff. Anyway, I don't really want to talk about my first driving test, apart from the fact that I failed because of a bay park right at the end at the test centre. I reversed too far and I bumped the curb, and they failed me on it. Because the thing is, you're not allowed to touch a curb any time during your test. If you do, you fail, because you're putting others in danger, and there could have been someone walking on the pavement behind me, behind the bay, and if you touch the curb, you could have mounted the curb and you could have potentially killed someone. I think it's totally such a kind of thing to pick up on and to fail you on, but that's what happens. So yeah, first time was a bit of a shambles, and I got something like 10, 12 minors. If I hadn't done that, I would have passed with 10 or 12 minors, and in a way I'm kind of glad that I didn't pass, because I don't think I would have felt safe knowing that I'd got like only just enough minors to pass, if that makes sense. Like, I needed a couple more and I would have failed. So yeah, my second time round I felt so much more confident. The real thing is to really, I know it's hard to say, and it's easy saying it looking back on it, going, you just have to treat it like a driving lesson, but it really does help. Just think of it as a driving lesson with, say for instance, you've gone to a new instructor because your instructor stopped doing it. You'd have to go to a new instructor, and you'd have to get to know them, and they'd have to get to know your driving, and they probably would, if you've already been driving and you go to a new instructor, they probably would do a little mini test to see whereabouts you are. They might not do it in quite the same capacity, but they'll see whereabouts you are in your driving. So one of the things is just to try and treat it like just an ordinary driving lesson. To not be scared of it. If you know, I know it's a lot of money, but if you fail, you fail. And a lot of the time, my friend was a really confident driver, and she failed. I think she failed 2 times because of other drivers on the road. Like she started pulling away on a roundabout, someone just came blaring round, so she stopped, but because she'd stopped on the roundabout, she failed. They failed her on it. However, if she'd carried on going, when this person was come coursing around the roundabout, she probably would have died and been involved in a really bad, serious accident. So it's just totally ridiculous. And a lot of the times it's down to my ex. I think he failed 2 times because of other drivers, not because of him. It was because of other drivers and things like that. So a lot of the time, if it's someone else, a lot of the time you don't fail because of you fail because of someone else, and you have to react to that situation. Like my friend Maria, there was no way she couldn't have she had to stop. If she didn't stop, she probably would have been involved in a serious accident, and she definitely wouldn't have passed her driving test then. So yeah, that's one thing to remember, is that you can't control the other cars around you. So my driving instructor always said, drive defensively. Always drive expecting the worst to happen. So stay that further bit back from the car in front of you. Slow down when there's a junction because someone may pull out in front of you, that sort of thing. Drive defensively, not attackingly, if that makes sense. So treat it like a driving lesson. Don't be worried if you don't pass first time, because it is a new thing, and you can't control everyone around you, so you can't control necessarily what's going to happen. Another thing to remind people that are learning to drive is that you pay your driving instructor. So if there is something that you are not comfortable with, or that you're not confident in, and you feel like you need more practice in, you tell your driving instructor that you want to focus more on bay parking, parallel parking, 3-point turns, whatever it is, not motorways, dual carriageways. If you're not confident on the dual carriageway, you don't feel confident like changing lanes or like merging on or coming off, then you tell your driving instructor, because the reason they are there is to teach you. And even if you can do something, if you don't feel confident in it, then it won't come off well in your driving test if you end up having to do that. If you end up having to go on the dual carriageway in your driving test and it's not one of your confident things, it's going to be even worse when you're doing your driving test. So you pay your driving instructor, so you tell them what you want. They might think, they might say, but you're fine at it. Then you just say to them, yes, but I don't feel confident at it. I don't feel confident enough. I want to build my confidence up on the dual carriageway. I passed my test. There's several different routes that you can have on your test, and I didn't get the dual carriageway route either time. Did I? No, I don't think I did. No, I didn't. I didn't have the dual carriageway route either time I had my tests. And I was not a confident dual carriageway driver when I passed my test, and it took driving on the dual carriageway several times, merging on, coming off, to really get my, now I don't even have to think about going on the dual carriageway, I don't even think about it. The only thing I don't like is that one of the dual carriageways near me, when you merge on, it's like a big crossroads, and when you're turning like left onto the dual carriageway, it's not traffic controlled, so you've got to merge, but sometimes there is traffic coming because the rest of it is traffic controlled. It's a bit complicated. I can't explain it without giving away where I live and it being near me and stuff and telling you where I live. But yeah, I don't like it, and that's the only bit I don't like of the dual carriageway. Changing lanes is fine. Merging on normally is fine. It's just when you have to merge on when you've got so much traffic, because if there wasn't traffic lights there, the traffic would just come a lot kind of more calmer, but because it's the traffic lights, they just come blaring through there, and they come in big packs and clumps. But anyway, you just kind of push yourself on and don't die. But yeah, so that's another thing to remember, is that you pay your driving instructor, so if you don't feel confident with something, you ask to go over it. Is there anything else? Really, really practice makes perfect. One thing I would say is that when it comes closer to your test, if you have your own car, don't go out in your car, because that might set you back. If you're not quite as used to your car as you are your instructor's car, or you haven't done quite so much driving, or you always don't drive that great in your car, don't drive your car. Just drive your instructor's car or the car that you're taking your test in. because if you're driving a different car, it can make you lose some of your confidence, and it can kind of set you back a little bit. I remember the first time I went out in my car, it was an absolute disaster, and I didn't go out in it again until I'd passed my test. And just kind of, if you because obviously every car's different and drives different and the clutch is different on every car. If you pass your test and you have struggled with your car before, don't worry about your car until you've passed your test. That's what I kind of felt like. I'm not even going to bother about worrying about my car until I've passed my test. And then as soon as I pass my test, I can just I want to just kind of like get myself used to my car. I think I like sat on my drive one day, like I think I'd passed my test, and I just went forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, just getting used to my clutch when I'd passed my test. And then I actually drove out, and it was like the second time I'd driven my car, probably like nearly a year between them. I took my driving test a couple of weeks before my 18th birthday, so I had like literally nearly a year that I was driving. I drove my car like once near the beginning when I kind of felt confident with my driving enough to kind of go out in my own car, and it was absolutely horrific. I kept stalling, everything kind of went to kaput and went to pot because it was a completely different car, and everything was so different, and my car was so much more wider than my instructor's car and silly things like that. So if you have those issues with your car, don't go out in them like for a couple of weeks before your test, or maybe even like don't go out in it at all. Once you know you've got your test coming up, don't go out in your own car, just stay in your instructor's car. And yeah, I think that's kind of like all my advice for taking your driving test. If there's anything else you want me to talk about driving wise, driving test, the main thing is just to try and not to worry and get nervous about it, because it's not the end of the world if you do fail. And I know that's not a good way to go in, thinking, oh, it's okay because I can take it again if I fail, but it isn't the end of the world. And actually, failing first time for me was kind of like one of the best things that ever happened to me, I suppose, because I am a lot more of a confident driver now, and I think I wouldn't have been quite so confident if I had passed first time, knowing that I'd passed with like 10, 12 minors or however many minors I had. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any more questions of learning to drive or anything, leave them in the comments, or you can message me, or you can email me them and I'll get back to them. If I get enough questions about driving, I might do another driving video. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!